The world has got you chasing vanity metrics, social media specifically. On today's episode of Amplify Your Marketing Message, we're going to take a look at what does true influence and being an influencer really mean in terms of mastering your marketing message and truly connecting with potential clients, improving movement, and seeing more consistent client growth in your business. I am your host, Campbell Rapin. It is a pleasure to have you here today. I'm a business mentor who helps businesses get clear on the foundations to create scalable and repeatable success. I work with service-based businesses, and this is who is using influence most to create their business. So let's take a look at this. What are some of the vanity metrics that are really talked about and are highly dangerous? Well, it all began with the idea that likes, comments, followers, and the amount of subscribers that you have to your various social media platforms were the ultimate goal. And it shows up in ways where people say, I follow you, you follow me, or follow trains, or worse yet, people buying followers. If you are working with anybody in your business, whether it is a coach, a mentor, an agency who says, let's buy you followers, run as fast as you can in the other direction. Because the simple truth is this, and I see it time and time again, people think that the vanity metric is going to translate into client growth, and it doesn't. I know so many people who would be quote unquote big names who have a massive amount of followers but have no email list. They do not see consistent client growth. And while they have a lot of fans, they don't have a lot of traction when it comes to business. And this is unfortunately a trap it is so easy to get caught up into. And when I am working with clients, one of the most important things I talk about is reminding people to show up with the power of one. You need to build one conversation at a time. You need to connect to one audience member at a time. And it is the engagement in terms of movement, which is going to be the predictor of future success. You've heard me say it time before, but I want to repeat it. Two things and only two things will predict your revenue over the next 90 days. How many people you're knowing and how many offers you're making. And when I say something like that, people say, well, Christine, aren't you talking about those vanity metrics? That's a good question. Yes, to a certain extent. But what is more important is not just the size of your audience, but the reason we start with size is because we say we need to get into the rooms with people and then turn our ideal audience towards us. And that group then gets smaller. The focus of your messaging and your audience building strategy is to create movement from your ideal client who is maybe in volume to smaller and smaller groups of people that move forward towards what you're doing in your business through experiences, through the resources you offer, through the programs and services, so that they start to show up in the front of the room in a much smaller quantity. And they will ask those magical questions. Tell me what it's like to work with you. One thing to really note in the conversation is that you need to be definitive about creating that piece of movement, because ultimately, what is influence? Influence is the ability to inspire, motivate, and create a desired action of movement towards something. And the goal is to use your tools effectively to bring the right people to you. Here's something I tell people about my business. 99% of the clients I have worked with in the past or our current clients today have never engaged in my social media. I don't get caught up to the likes and followers because I know that they are not the measure of whether I will see success when I position an offer to a new prospect. What is important is once somebody is a client, yes, they do often engage in my social media, but in the initial stages, they don't. One of the earliest mistakes that I had in my business, I want to share with you. I was creating my first event. This was about 5 or 6 years ago, and I told everybody in my network about it because I thought the larger the audience, the more likes, The more comments, the more registrations were really going to be the thing I needed to focus on because I needed to reach people in order to see results. So I had more than 100 people register for my first event. But guess what? I got caught in the vanity metric. It was not the right audience. People had registered or liked or shared it because they were choosing to support me as a business owner, which is awesome. I love having people in my crowd that are supporters, but they were not who this event was designed to support. And so they weren't engaged and motivated to show up. There was no movement. So guess what happened? The day of the event, I had 3 people of more than 100 registrations in the room. It was destroying to my ego. One person left halfway through. She was somebody I knew from a previous life. One was a competitor in the sense that she also offered business mentoring services and she was curious about what I did in my business. So she was coming from an observation point of view. And the third person was my ideal. I knew what I could deliver would help them. And after I picked my ego up off the floor, I put on an amazing event for that one person. And I shut down the event and had to go lick my wounds. And I pouted, I'll be honest, I pouted and was disappointed and disheartened and discouraged until I got an email from them, that one person I showed up for, saying, I'm so glad you kept going for that event because it has reshaped how I see my future. I now have a clear roadmap of what I want to do, and it wouldn't be possible if I didn't choose to show up. You didn't choose to cancel the event, and I'm very grateful for you being the spark on my journey. And it was a heartfelt thank you. And reading that email brought tears to my eyes because it was the reality check I needed. And I'm so grateful in hindsight. It happened very early on in my business where I learned the importance of influence, the importance of getting somebody to move, but most importantly, the right people to move. If you are feeling lost in the sea of sameness, if you are not actively focused around the so what factors of why are you doing this business? Why should people choose you? And what is the purpose of everything? You are simply treading water. And the scattergun approach that you're taking in your marketing is not effective because true influence is not likes, followers, comments, or subscribers. You can make a very successful business with a very small number of people as long as you recognize it is the right people. And the right people who have the greatest need for you are not the people who are going to cheer from the front row from day one. In fact, only 3% of people who engage with you today are buyers today. That means that the vast majority are not. You need to show up with influence. You need to show up with integrity. You need to show up with a very clear idea of where am I moving people to? How can I instill confidence? How can I build trust? How can I showcase my capabilities and where I have capacity, make invitations to movement? That's what true influence is. So as you listened to this episode, and I encourage you to subscribe to this podcast, Amplify Your Marketing Message, I want you to be thinking about, am I focused on the right measures? Am I showing up to connect with the one person who really needs what I have to say? Am I using my platforms, my audience, my message, and my offers to create movement and in a good way show up as a human being with influence? People choose to work with you when they are confident you can deliver the results and be the guide to helping your ideal audience achieve it for themselves. That is the true measure of success. And when you have influence, when you curate it, when you consistently apply that influence for the greater good, you create catalyst of change on a very rapid and very large scale. That's what I want for you. I want to see more businesses succeed. I want to see you create that influence to focus on the human connection, the movement piece, so that you can see more income, more impact, and do it in a way that sits with integrity of human to human powered change. This is Amplify Your Marketing Message. If you have missed past episodes, I want to invite you to my website and check out the podcast page. You're going to find recent episodes that, of course, from this program. There are also going to be stages that I have shared my message on and a special download. It's going to be about helping you master your marketing message. Grab it on my website, www.christinecampbellrapin.com/podcast. Until next time, use your influence for the greater good and understand what great influence really comes is great responsibility to create change, and all change starts with one. I am Christine Campbell Rapin. We'll see you soon.